Well, Emily.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm Ryan. This is Emily.
Hi.
And we're here to talk about The Others.
Yes,
from
we
2001,
are.
starring Nicole Kidman. Just a little background on this film. It was directed by Alejandro Amenabar, who also directed Abre los Ojos, which is Open Your Eyes, which is the movie that Vanilla Sky, starring Tom Cruise, was based on. He also directed a movie called The Sea Inside, starring Javier Bardem, I believe. This movie came out in 2001. And
It's filmed in Spain.
Filmed in Spain. You told me an interesting fact about this movie, Nicole Kidman.
Right, so Tom Cruise executive produced this film, but it was the last film that they collaborated on because they were going through their divorce at the time, and by the time it came out, I believe they were finishing up their divorce.
Yeah, so there that is.
Yeah.
Just a little reminder, this is a spoilerific review. We will be talking, there is a twist in this movie, and we'll be talking about this. The thing that this movie is most known for is the I am your daughter scene. So if you don't remember anything about The Others, you remember that from the trailers, because it's creepy as hell.
Definitely.
So let's just jump in a little bit to the story here. Basically, Nicole Kidman lives in this giant house.
Right. She's always surrounded by fog.
Always.
Always.
And she has two kids who are sensitive to light, so they have to do this thing where they open and close doors like compartmentally throughout the house.
Which is actually a real disease, but very, very few people have it.
Yeah, so, and there are strange happenings in the house. Doors open without any explanation. There are drawers opening. They believe the house might
And they have
be a
new
little
servants
haunted.
that they blame for everything.
Yeah, and
they're
but
kind of creepy servants.
But there are things that are going on, and her husband is away at war.
Right,
Basically,
World War
they
II.
they have not heard from him in a very long time. So that's kind of what's going on in this movie. This movie, to me, it's a very slow burn movie. It's a languid movie. It's all about atmosphere. Like Emily mentioned, there's a lot of fog, but within the house, there's not a lot of jump scares in this movie or anything like that. It's just more, it's a really creepy atmosphere throughout.
Although I do remember that when I watched this film, what I loved about it was that it was kind of jumpy in certain parts. Like when one of my favorite scenes was when she's in the room and everything's covered with the sheets. And there's some big jump scares.
Yeah, there's a few.
And then the part with the little girl.
Yeah, that part is very creepy.
Definitely.
There's a few kind of moments I've heard it described as it's to show what the movie's capable of, but throughout most of it, it's just a very uneasy feeling. They don't really know what's going on. The way this movie's shot, it's gorgeous. It has this kind of like, it's a lot of dark, hushed tones and things like that. So it's interesting to look at, and also it just really successfully makes a feeling about what being in that house is like. I remember when this came out in theaters, I saw it 3 times.
Really?
In theaters, yeah. So I like this movie quite a bit.
I actually really like this film too, and it's kind of fascinating to me. I'm not like a huge horror buff, but it's kind of fascinating to me that this film is so critically acclaimed because for what it is. It's almost like not too much happens. It is kind of slow.
I think that's,
but there's something so good about it.
I think that's probably why it was kind of praised so much, because it's considered a horror movie, but it has this really restrained, elegant filmmaking to it.
That's true.
That we're not used to seeing, and it's a PG-13 movie.
It doesn't overwhelm you too much with the horror, like throw it in your face.
Yeah, it's just an interesting story.
Right.
Let's get into the twist a little bit.
Okay.
Now, right before earlier in the movie, her husband kind of returns from war.
And they do
kind of mysteriously, though.
And then he leaves.
He kind of just emerges from the fog.
Yeah.
And he's there for a little bit, and they interact a tiny bit, and then he leaves, and it's very strange. Like, the first time you see the movie, that scene feels very, very odd. And he's played by Chris Eccleston.
You're very confused at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, he's played by Chris Eccleston, who was a Doctor Who, and he was also in Thor: The Dark World coming up. But what that kind of comes into focus, you realize later in the film, the twist, again, spoilers, is that they are the dead ones.
Right.
And that they are they are haunting the people who are actually living there.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, The Sixth Sense had come out 2 years prior, I believe. So we were kind of in this trend of these like gotcha things.
Yeah.
This movie kind of makes it a little more cerebral it's kind of like existential in their plight of like at the end they're like, well, we're the dead ones and we must accept this.
Do you think this plot would have been more powerful had it come out before The Sixth Sense?
Probably.
And like way more critically acclaimed even than
it's
already.
possible that this movie might have been more of a phenomenon because it was such a gotcha thing, but people, you know, had
you're
seen
kind of
that.
expecting it then after Sixth Sense was
but that scene also is quite a thing because they have this old lady who's behaving as like a medium, just writing on paper. And I think she's blind, and she's just writing on paper, and they keep taking the paper away, and she's speaking to Nicole Kidman and her kids from the living world. It's really a fascinating reveal.
Well, is she also she kind of is a morph between the old woman and the little girl when she's under the veil when she comes in?
Yeah,
my daughter.
Yeah, so there's that scene is so creepy. So that's kind of what this movie is based around. Beforehand, it's a really engaging, mysterious kind of movie, and then once that happens, you realize that the whole rest of the movie is in a different context. They were indeed the ones that were haunting. The living people were the ones that were opening and closing the doors and kind of manipulating their environment.
Right. Well, what's fascinating to me also, let's go to the servants, the whole role the servants play in the film, is that the servants know this because they're also dead. They're trying to tell them, but it's almost like they don't think Nicole Kidman's ready to know, so they kind of tell her, or not tell her, but they kind of reveal things slowly, but then they let her figure it out by herself. So they play a really interesting role in it. Yeah. And I don't know, do you think that the servants are very needed, or do you think they could have done without the servants
in the film itself, in the story film?
Because I mean I feel like they fill a significant role, but you almost
I think that the servants kind of play that role that is often played in like heist movies where they need someone who's a surrogate for the audience for people to explain things to. Right. So when we get into the house, we need them to explain why all the doors are closed and things. Right. Because it'd be weird if Nicole Kidman was like, kids, you know that you have a condition where you can't be in the light.
That's true. They're also kind of at a frightening element, like when they're coming at her at the end and she's trying to shoot them and, you know.
Honestly, it's a really engaging, beautifully directed movie. Again, it's not something that I've revisited a lot over the years. It's not... Again, I saw it in theaters 3 times, and that was kind of plenty for me. But
I've seen it more than I've seen most horror films. I think.
If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a beautifully directed film, and it has a really good ending that lines up with everything. Again, there's some kind of, you know, there's some fat that could have been trimmed in the movie. It kind of moves very slowly, but it's deliberate. And Amenabar's a really, really good director. Eli Roth is actually a really big fan of Amenabar, which is cool.
If you're a fan of the gore and stuff, this isn't really quite there.
Yeah, but this is a horror movie you could watch with your parents.
It's actually like just, not more about the story than about the great horror, but it does create such a great feeling that it is, I mean, it's different. It's why it's good.
Ryan and Emily say, go see the others.
Yeah.
It may have gotten lost in time. It's 12 years old now, but you should definitely go check it out. So, that's our feelings on the others.
Yes.
Let us know what you feel about it down in the comments section, and check back every single day in October. We will be doing a review of a horror movie. So until then, I'm Ryan.
I'm Emily.
Thank you for watching.